Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvrajagacharya Statara Sadashi Srimad Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Pranandi Hariko Hare Krishna. Can you give me a mat? One mat? Seven or 17? Here it's open at 17, here it says 7, and you say 14. You're doing which? 14, okay. 3:21, 14. 3:21, 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ye mayayate hatameda sattvat Padaravindam bhavasindhu potam Upasate kamalavayate sham Rasisha kama niraye piyeshu Ye mayayate hatameda sastvat Padaravindam bhavasindhu potam Upasate kamalavayate sham Rasisha kama niraye piyeshu those persons, Maya, by the deluding energy, Te, of you, Hata, has been lost, Medasaha, whose intelligence, Tvat, your, Pada Aravindam, the lotus feet, Bhava, of mundane existence, Sindhu, the ocean, Potam, the boat for crossing. Srila Prabhupada had a disciple called Bhava Sindhu Potam Das. Upasate, worship. Kamalavaya, for obtaining trivial pleasures. Tesham, there. Rasi, you bestow. Isha, O Lord. Kaman, desires. Niraye, in hell. Api, even. Yea, which desires. Syuhu, can be available. Translation, your lotus feet are the true vessel. This is Kardama Muni speaking here to the Lord. Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane nescience. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses, which even persons rotting in hell can attain. However, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow your mercy even upon them. Purport, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, there are two kinds of devotees, those who desire material pleasures and those who desire nothing but the service to the Lord. Material pleasures can be attained even by hogs and dogs whose condition of life is hellish. The hog also eats, sleeps, and enjoys sex life to the full extent, and it is also very satisfied with such hellish enjoyment of material existence. Modern yogis advise that because one has senses, one must enjoy to the fullest extent like cats and dogs, yet one can go on and practice yoga. This is condemned here by Kardama Muni. He says that such material pleasures are available for cats and dogs in a hellish condition. The Lord is so kind that if so-called yogis are satisfied by hellish pleasures, He can give them facilities to attain all the material pleasures they desire, but they cannot attain the perfectional stage attained by Kardama Muni. Hellish and demonic persons do not actually know what is the ultimate attainment in perfection, and therefore they think that sense gratification is the highest goal of life. They advise that one can satisfy the senses and at the same time, by reciting some mantra and by some practice, one can cheaply aspire for perfection. Such persons are described here as Hata Meda Saha, which means those whose brains are spoiled. They aspire for material enjoyment by perfection of yoga or meditation. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated by the Lord that the intelligence of those who worship the demigods has been spoiled. Similarly, here too, it is stated by Kardama Muni that one who aspires after material enjoyment by practice of yoga has spoiled his brain substance and is fool number one. Actually, the intelligent practitioner of yoga should aspire for nothing else but to cross over the ocean of nescience by worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to see the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord is so kind, however, that even today persons whose brain substance is spoiled are given the benediction to become cats, dogs, or hogs and enjoy material happiness from sex life and sense gratification. The Lord confirms this benediction in the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever a person aspires to receive from me, I offer him as he desires. That's the end of the purport. Ye maya te hatamedasastvat padaravindam bhavasindu potam upasate kama lavayatesham rashisha kama niraye pi yeshu. Kardama Muni said to the Lord appeared before him after he had performed long austerities and meditation on the Lord, I think for 10,000 years, is it mentioned here? Was it 10,000 years? Yes? So, your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane existence. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses, which even persons rotting in hell can attain. However, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow your mercy upon them. So yes, Kardama Muni is a very advanced devotee and yogi, and he was fully fixed in Krishna consciousness, and so much so that the Lord personally appeared before him due to his great devotion. He's a very special person because Lord appeared before him here, and in advance the Lord told him, I'll appear as your son. And then, of course, as we know, he was married to Devahuti, the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. It was a little bit unusual marriage because, she was a royal princess. Swayambhuva Manu was the, ruler of the universe. So she was brought up, obviously, in great comfort and opulence. But Kardama Muni was a sage living in the forest. I guess usually the pictures show that he had long matted hair, as rishis often do or had. But she had heard of his glories, and she aspired to marry him. So Vedic system, the father arranges the marriage, but certainly he'll take into account the feelings and desires of his daughter, who she would be inclined to marry. But the official arrangements will be made by the father. So they went, father and daughter, to the ashram of Kardama. Kardama himself, although he was a great sage, a very austere, still he had desire in his heart to accept a wife. So Lord arranged everything very nicely. Swayambhuva and his daughter came to his ashram, and then the father put the proposal to him. He accepted. So in this way, they were married, and Devahuti accepted the austerities of her husband. She joined her husband in living very, very austerely, simply in performing austerities and worshipping the Lord and being happy in Krishna consciousness. But she also became, thin due to the austerities. And Kardama, seeing the condition of his wife and knowing that she aspired to have some children, he also knew that the Lord would appear as his son, because in this interaction here between the Lord and Kardama, the Lord tells him that I'm going to appear as your son. So, of course, we know he appeared as Kapila. So he was doubly fortunate in that sense. Twice, he had the close association of the Lord. First, in this case here, when the Lord comes and benedicts him, blesses him, and then later when Kapila appears as his son. So anyway, Kardama, being a very powerful yogi, and wishing to please his wife and make suitable arrangements, for having children and bringing them up, he created an aerial mansion which could fly throughout the universe according to his desire. And in that aerial mansion, it was a palace. There were all facilities for comfortable life, beautiful furnishings, nice beds and couches and pillows and so on and so forth, very opulent. And they traveled throughout the universe for a long time and enjoyed family life. And she had nine daughters, wasn't it? And then he wanted to retire from family life, Kardama. He made, I think in the beginning, he made that point, he made that condition that, when there would be children, they were growing up, then he would retire. But Devahuti, she said, my Lord, these daughters, they're all going to get married, they're going to go off with their husbands, live in the homes of their husbands' families, as is the Vedic tradition. It's still a tradition in India today. The father arranges the marriage, and then when the marriage takes place, they go and live in the home of the husband's parents. That's usually why there's dowry. Of course, it's generally frowned upon in the modern world, and of course it should not be misused to, harass the bride's family. But the thinking behind it is that, the husband's family is going to take care of the wife. And the children will be born and they will be brought up in the husband's family's home, and the property of the husband's family will pass on to the sons. So dowry is given by the bride's father, because in that way they're contributing, to the future of the couple, and they're, showing their love and goodwill towards their daughter, to help the newlyweds, get set up, even though the husband family taking the responsibility. If the husband dies prematurely, the wife will still be able to live in the home of the husband's family. I mean, she's become part of that family. But of course, in the modern world, there are often misunderstandings, and the husband family may demand, excessive dowry, and then if it's not paid, then the daughter-in-law will be treated not very nicely. And often, in Indian families also, the mother-in-law, the mother-in-law of the bride, that is, the husband's mother may be very demanding. The young bride, she has to do all the housework, and a lot of pressure put on her. So, if things are not done in the proper way, that can lead to misunderstandings, mistreatment. Even you hear sometimes, not very pleasant, of course, that the bride, because the dowry is not paid or she's not obeying the mother, it might be doused with petrol and set on fire. I mean, it's horrible, but that's unfortunate in Kali Yuga. The system is misused and a mistreatment is there. But anyway, not in this case, of course. This Devahuti, she was fortunate in every way. She could perform a devotional service with her husband and advance in spiritual life. Then she had, so many daughters, and they lived in opulence. And then she appealed, as I said, to Kardama. You're going to leave, no one, I'll be left alone. I should at least have one son. So then, okay, he agreed, and Kapila Dev appeared as his son. So he's doubly fortunate in that way. Lord appeared here before him and again appeared as his son. Although one might ask, why didn't he remain at home and relish the childhood pastimes of the Lord as his son? Why, why didn't he do like, say, Nanda Maharaj, who could enjoy the childhood pastimes of Krishna? Rather, he left home. Because anyway, that was his focus from the very start. He was an austere rishi. He relished that type of life, and even though he accepted a wife, still he always had that mentality that one day he would return back to that type of lifestyle, and so he departed with the blessings of his wife. Nowadays, I think in ISKCON, someone wants to take sannyas, he has to get, if he's married, he'll have to get some letter of permission, isn't it? So the rules have become more stringent. Anyway, that's important. I mean, why, abandon wife and children if they're not properly cared for? It will just create disturbance in society. So she agreed. After having the son, Kapila, she agreed, and he retired to the forest again. But that's not the end of the saga, of course. Maybe most important part of the whole, pastime is that when Kapila grew up a bit, she inquired from him about spiritual knowledge. And it's then a long section of the Bhagavatam here in the third canto, the instructions of Kapila Dev to his mother Devahuti, and Srila Prabhupada published a special book in that regard, the Teachings of Lord Kapila, which are lectures, I believe, lectures by Prabhupada on this particular topic, on a series of verses spoken by Kapila Dev to his mother, her inquiries and his replies. They're very, very important instructions for Krishna consciousness. Very important, and devotees should study them carefully. And she also, inspired him to speak by her relevant questions. This is the process of transmission of spiritual knowledge. The speaker should be bona fide. He should speak in accordance with Guru Sadhu Shastra. And the hearer should be sincere, submissive, and genuinely inquisitive. Just like in the forest of Naimisharanya, the sages welcomed Sutta Goswami in their midst, gave him an elevated seat, and inquired from him submissively. And this inspired him to speak. He replied, "O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they are of relevance to the world's welfare. So in this way, he was inspired to speak the Bhagavatam, which is mostly, he's repeating what he's heard from Sukadeva Goswami. And in turn, Sukadeva also relates different conversations, for example, the instructions of Maitreya Muni to Vidura. So these instructions here of Kapila to Devahuti are, very important, very inspiring, and they must be distinguished from the teachings of the atheist Kapila, who espoused the Sankhya philosophy or analytical study of material nature. So Prabhupada calls his book, Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, and he's indicating specifically which Kapila. So here we see Kardama Muni is glorifying the Lord and giving very relevant statement which is applicable for everybody, for every devotee. Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane nescience. So we are here, although New Govardhana is a scenic abode of Sri Sri Radha Govardhana Dari, it's a transcendental abode. Still, this is material world around us, and people in general are engaged in mundane activities. So it's a notion of mundane nescience. Kalar dosha nidhe rajan Kalar dosha nidhe rajan. Kali Yuga is a notion of faults, O king. The Sukadeva Goswami says. Asti hieka mahan guna. There's one great quality. Kirtana Deva Krishna Sya Mukta Sangha Paramrajat. Simply by chanting the holy names of Krishna, one can attain liberation and go back to the spiritual world. This is from the 12th canto. So this is, even though there are so many descriptions in the Bhagavatam of the hellish nature of the material world and the hellish nature of the lower planets, the hellish planets, still there is a great quality. By chanting Hare Krishna, you can be transformed, you can become spiritually realized, and you can have shelter of the Supreme Lord because He's non-different from the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As I understand, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would read the articles written by his disciples, he would see how many times the name of Krishna is mentioned there. So he considered that it's a very good sign of how Krishna conscious the article is. And well, anyway, Krishna appeared in the Kali Yuga as Lord Chaitanya to inaugurate Sankirtan movement and to spread this chanting far and wide. And he traveled all over India. After he took sannyas for that purpose, to uplift people and inspire them to chant Hare Krishna. In his youth pastimes, he seemed to be an arrogant brahmana, and he was always absorbed in debate and defeating other scholars in the topics of logic and Sanskrit grammar. But as it happened, Ishvara Puri came to Navadip and spent, I believe, about 6 months there. It's related in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And during that time, Nimai, as Lord Chaitanya was known then, he had the opportunity to invite Isharapuri to his home, and Isharapuri took prasadam. So he was he had a chance to study Isharapuri very closely, and he was very impressed by him. Then when his father died, Jagannath Mishra, then Lord Chaitanya went to Gaya to perform Pinda at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. There's a famous temple there in Gaya, just the lotus feet of the Lord. And we see our acharyas like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he installed the similar lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya in many holy places of pilgrimage throughout South India where the Lord went. And recently I was at a program in a Vrindavan, it's about a year ago I guess, where Ajay Maharaj was having this safari around Brajamandal and installing those similar kind of lotus feet in the whorl of the lotus petal. So there was a ceremony there at the Krishna Balaram Hall. Many of those, lotus feet were on display. I don't know, maybe about 10 of them or so, and everyone was, bathing them. Then after that, on the parikrama, Maharaj couldn't go due to his health, but the devotees installed them at different places that Lord Chaitanya visited. But anyhow, that's the style of the temple there in Gaya. It's like a lotus with the lotus feet of the Lord there in the middle. So the tradition in Hindu families is to go there and perform Pinda, for the liberation of the departed soul. So when he was there, Lord Chaitanya met Ishwarapuri again, and this time, he was ready and he accepted him as his spiritual master. And from that time, he became maddened in the ecstasy of chanting the holy names of Krishna, came back to Navadvip, and he began teaching his students Sanskrit using the names, the holy names of the Lord. Later, Jiva Goswami wrote a Sanskrit grammar, Vyakaran, Harinam Amrita, Vyakaran, the grammar of the nectar of the holy names. So that uses all names of Krishna's to, or incarnations of Krishna to describe the Sanskrit grammar, and gives examples also using names of Krishna. For example, Vamana is a short syllable, but Trivikram, which is a gigantic form taken by Vamana to take the 3 steps of land from Bali Maharaj. So Trivikram is a long syllable, or Kalki is the future tense because, Lord will appear in future as Kalki. So that way, Lord was teaching the grammar to the students. So they were all chanting the holy names of the Lord, and they all became inspired. And Lord Chaitanya, previously the Vaishnavas had avoided him. He was always trying to, stop them and engage them in some kind of, debate about grammar or logic. And I think it's described, Mukunda Datta, once he saw the Lord coming, he ducked into the side alley to avoid him, when Nimai was a pandit like that. But then when he came back from Gaya, there was a meeting with all the devotees, and then Lord Chaitanya expressed his desire to join the Vaishnavas, and they were very inspired, of course, because he was such a famous pandit, having defeated the great pandit Keshav Kashmiri in debate. Keshav Kashmiri was a Digvijay. Dig is different directions. So Digvijay is the one who has conquered every everyone in all direction. So he came to Navadvip very proud, and the pandits, they were, Navadvip pandit, there was a lot of big pandits there, but they were trembling, this big, Keshav Kashmiri is coming to town, we may be defeated. So they pushed Nimai forward, that he's just a young fellow in our town, so we'll get a chance to see, what's the what's the style of Keshav Kashmiri. We can prepare ourselves. If Nimai is defeated, we can prepare ourselves better. Then we may be able to, one of us may be able to defeat him. But, if Nimai defeats him, well, we can say it's just a young pandit here from our town, we don't need to debate with you. You can't even defeat our most youthful pandit. So this was a good tactic, of course. And Nimai met him on the banks of the Ganga and asked him to, very humbly, asked him, please recite some poetry in praise of Mother Ganga. He recited 100 verses, like it said, like the blowing wind, just off the top of his head. 100 beautiful verses. Very impressive. Well, Nimai said, yes, well, it's very wonderful. I mean, you're such a great personality. But please, don't mind if I just analyze one of those verses. And then okay, Keshav Kashmiri. He was surprised, and Nimai could even remember one of the verses, what to speak of analyzing it. So then he analyzed it, and he pointed out the good qualities in the verse, and then he pointed out the faults. And Keshav Kashmiri, he was astounded how this, boy could defeat me in this way. And in the night, he went to Mother Saraswati praying, my dear mother, you've always protected me and helped me in every situation. How come you've abandoned me, embarrassed me in this way? And she said, you fool, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's the Nimai, he's the Lord himself. So Keshav Kashmiri, then he surrendered to Lord Chaitanya. But anyway, going back to the previous narrative, one day Nimai was chanting in the mood of the gopis, and he was remembering the gopis and their love of Krishna and separation. He was chanting the names of the gopis, and one of his students criticized him, why you're not chanting the names of Krishna? What is this, chanting the names of the gopis? Lord Chaitanya got upset with him and chased him away. So then the students gathered together in a group, very agitated, young Bengali, students, and they came in a mob. They wanted to punish Nimai. So that's when he decided that people don't respect me because I'm a grihasta. Better I accept sannyas. And on the spot, pretty much, he left his family and went to Katwa, and he accepted sannyas from the nearest sannyasi, Keshav Bharati, even though he was in the impersonalist school. Prabhupada said Nimai left a smaller family for the benefit of the larger family, which is the whole world, to give them Krishna consciousness. And another place Prabhupada said that Lord Chaitanya, he traveled all over India, to the south, to the west, and he inspired people to be Krishna conscious and to chant Hare Krishna everywhere. And the details of that are also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What he did in every village. He would sleep at the side of the road. He would sleep in a temple. He would, Brahmins would invite him to take a lunch as he moved throughout the country. And especially in Kurma Kshetra, there is the pastime with the Kurma Brahmana. So, the Kurma Brahmana, he was so inspired by Lord Chaitanya's presence and his Sankirtan movement that he said, "Let me leave home and go with you." But Lord Chaitanya said, "Don't speak like that again." He said, "Stay in your home with your family, chant Hare Krishna," and then the famous verse, "Yari dekotari kaha Krishna upadesh, amaragya guru hanya tara eidesh." Whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna, and in this way you become guru and deliver the whole world. It's a verse that Prabhupada quoted many, many, many times, especially on his Vyasa Puja lectures. He would quote that verse. I had the fortune to be present in Bhaktivedanta Manor, 1973. Prabhupada had installed the deities of Radha Gokulananda on Janmastami. Then he was present on Vyasa Puja. He gave a lecture. So he said, "I want all my disciples to become guru. It's not difficult," he said. "Simply repeat the instructions that you've heard from your spiritual master." And he quoted that verse, "Yari dekotarika Krishna upadesh." Then it said that this same type of pastime took place in all the villages that Lord Chaitanya visited. There was also one leper called Vasudeva, who heard, he was in a nearby village, he heard of that Lord Chaitanya was in Kurmakshetra, so he came to meet the Lord. Lord had already departed, and he fell on the ground in great lamentation. The Lord Chaitanya understood that. He came back to that village just to benedict Vasudeva, and he embraced Vasudeva, and his leprosy disappeared. And his body became golden and beautiful. Vasudeva Amrita Prada, I think is the name of Lord Chaitanya. And then Vasudeva, he was worried. He thought, "I might become proud because I was the recipient of so much mercy from Lord Chaitanya." So he asked the Lord, "Give me some instruction, please, so that I won't become puffed up." So Lord Chaitanya gave the same instruction that he gave to Kurma, "Whoever you meet, tell him about Krishna. In this way you become guru and deliver the whole country." The Prabhupada, he mentioned Lord Chaitanya traveled all over India and inspired people to take to the Sankirtan movement, but he said he very kindly left the rest of the world for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So that's the desire of Prabhupada, that the devotees be Krishna conscious and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So we get inspiration then from such pastimes, such instructions, and also from the pastimes and instructions of Kardama Muni here. So Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? Yes, please, Ram Prasad.
In today's verse, people who approach Krishna who still have material desires are described pretty negatively. Only persons deprived of their intelligence will worship the feet to attain trivial and momentary pleasures of this. But we know so many people we meet, not many of them have the austerity to only approach Krishna for the ultimate benefit. Like it describes, isn't it? Whether you're swakama or akama, you should approach Krishna. So we encourage them, approach Krishna, whatever desires you have. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, well, how can you get out of the hellish mentality, out of the hellish condition of material life? Only by, becoming Krishna conscious. Was it Maharaj Katvanga? He became Krishna conscious in a moment. but for the majority it takes time, it's a gradual process. So we encourage people to gradually, take up Krishna consciousness, and there's it. Even after devotees, become initiated and they're practicing Krishna consciousness, even for a considerable period of time, and still material desires remain in the heart, and even they're serious devotees, still they're troubled by material desires in different ways. So what to do? But actually there's, in the Uddhava Gita, Krishna says that if a devotee, he's troubled by material desires, or he commits some sinful acts or whatever, he shouldn't give up devotional service. He should go on practicing, and he should recognize that those activities are not proper activities, but still he should pray to the Lord to keep him engaged in devotional service, and go on with the process and somehow tolerate those difficulties, and in due course of time he should be able to cross over and overcome those tendencies. But it could take more than one life. but generally, hopefully, he could cross over and become very fully Krishna conscious in this life. But whether one life or two life or whatever, the solution is to keep going and try to rectify and pray for the mercy of the Lord. Rupa, please. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your class, Prabhu. You were saying that one should not artificially take sannyasa unless the family are looked after and maintained. So, Srila Prabhupada, he took sannyasa even though his family, one of his daughters still wasn't married, but that's what I've heard. But his family, no, they were not favourably disposed, nor did they help him in his preaching. When he had programs in his house, they would sit upstairs and drink cups of tea. So some devotees may experience that the family is not very favourably disposed to one's service or one's preaching. And but if the family is maintained, should one not necessarily take sannyas formally, but should one sort of make plans to travel more and preach and detach oneself if the family is not favourably disposed to assisting the man in his Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, that's what Prabhupada did, isn't it? I was reading an article on Vanaprastha by Jayadvaita Maharaj, which is on his website, and he was saying, Vanaprastha can be of different types. Someone is retired completely from family life, and then somebody else is retired and he goes with his wife to different holy places, and another type of Vanaprastha, he's like coming and going, visit his family and then go off for a while and do some other preaching. That's what Prabhupada did. He still spent time with his family, but then he would go off and try to do some preaching activities. So he did kind of detach himself a little gradually, like that. That's all right. Hare Krishna. You can read on Maharaj's website. You can.
By telling a few personalities on his travels around India to remain?
Look, it depends what stage of life they're at. If they're still quite, the children are still young. I mean, usually in India, the question is whether children are married or not. The parents' duty is to kind of bring them up and arrange their marriages, and then the wife should be able to live with the grown-up sons, and a husband can, take sannyas, or they would travel together to holy places, and then eventually the wife might go back and live with the children. But of course, Sannyas isn't for everybody. You know, it's for more Brahmanically inclined persons. Even the Pandavas didn't take sannyas. They retired to the Himalayas. Draupadi went with them. So it's especially for Brahminical persons because sannyasis have to preach, they have to explain the philosophy. So it depends on the circumstances. But for, you know, a householder, if their children are still growing up, but they're not married, it would seem that might have been the case there with the Kurma Brahmana. So, okay, he told him, you stay with your family. But he himself, I mean, he left his family, didn't he? I mean, if you say, what's his example? You know, he's telling the Kurma that, but what's his example? He just left his young wife and his elderly mother, you know, which in Bengal, you know, there's a great tragedy, you know. They have a drama, Nimai Sannyas. It goes for hours, and the Bengalis usually, they perform it in the night, you know, people go from their village to other village to see it, and it goes for hours, and it takes up the whole night, then in the morning, when it's light again, they can go back home. So it's called Nimai Sannyas, the people are crying, and, you know, it's a great tragedy, you know. And it was, the devotees in Navadvip, of course, is a great tragedy, you know. He's leaving us, you know, he shaved his head, and, you know, his beautiful long hair is gone, and his beautiful golden robes are gone. He's wearing his, you know, lungi type saffron cloth and carrying a danda. I mean, Nityananda even broke his danda and threw it in the river on the way to Puri. Danda Banga Nadi, the broken river Danda. So, yeah, I mean, it depends on the situation of the particular devotee. It's not like one size fits all exactly. There has to be a, you know, consideration of time, place, and circumstance. But it's one of the, you know, it's one of the recommended ways of gradually detaching oneself from family life. Especially if the family, you know, if the wife especially is not inclined like Prabhupada's wife. Oh. All right then. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.